right, I need to hit record.
Todd and Rob in the afternoon.
Hey, afternoon delight.
With Todd and Rob. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and here we are for another edition of the New Media Show. And, Rob, are your bags packed? Are you ready to go?
As packed as they need to be. I usually pack kind of last minute, so it's all right. I think just getting prepared for the adventure of the NAB show of sorts. So
Yep.
It'll be interesting to see how many people actually go to that event. And to most of our listeners, probably the NAB show isn't much of an event that any of them care about, but it's something that Todd and I have been doing for many years, and we oftentimes go to Las Vegas and do a lot of podcasting topic sessions and live stream this show, and have done all sorts of stuff at that event over the years. So it is a significant event from the perspective of broadcasters, of which we've been a part of.
I haven't packed yet, but I basically go to Detroit tomorrow night, and then Friday morning fly out because we got to do booth setup Saturday, and then full on Donkey Kong after that, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then back here on Thursday. But I tell you, I've just been slaving. I've been very busy, head down, grinding through stuff. It's been, a matter of fact, I'm forcing myself. When my watch tells me to stand up, I stand up now, because it's one of those things where if I don't, I don't. So it's been a very busy time. It's really not even prepping for the show. It's just been stuff,
Yeah. I mean, there's not a lot to prep for this. I mean, I'm not even a part of any company other than my own going to this event this year. So I'm not doing any booth or anything like that, but so it'll be a different adventure for me.
Well,
being there.
You can stop by and get a demo. I can spend some time and walk you through the platform. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of time to do that. So,
yeah, and that's kind of what I've been doing. I've been talking. I spent a lot of time with a lot of different companies, getting up to speed with what they're doing and all the hosting platforms, and which I think I've mentioned on the show prior. Just becoming more of a Swiss Army knife to the industry and try and be more knowledgeable across all of the platforms. And so if you certainly feel free to reach out to me, I would love to do a call with you if you have an innovative platform that you're trying to get out there and have people aware of. I would love to, be aware of it and help in whatever way I can. If you want to send me an email, rob.greenlee@gmail.com, that'd be all right.
So we are lit and live. I've sent out the bat signal. And so if you're not participating in the new podcasting apps at podcastapps.com, but go over there and grab one. We want you to play in that battlefield a little bit, especially if you're a podcaster. You're missing out here on the cool stuff going on. So anyway, big news. Of course, I knew about this before it popped because the embargo came in, but change of ownership over at Podcast Business Journal. It's now in the hands of Pod News and Company.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting development from the standpoint of, if you back up and you look at the merger from 30,000 foot view, I think it's one thing I think Pod News is probably this kind of short up on, and that's kind of a business focused aspect of their company. The Podcast Business Journal kind of implies the business of podcasting, where Pod News is really kind of an industry kind of news kind of platform that isn't specific to a certain segment of the podcast community that's interested in business stuff. So if you think about like Sounds Profitable, very much a podcast business focused thing. So I can definitely see where James was thinking about this. And I know James has been writing articles for the Podcast Business Journal on a regular basis for years now. So there's been a strong connection between those two brands from a content perspective for a while. And I know that, everybody knows each other. So this is a fairly small industry.
So you basically now have two entities. iHeart, which owns Insider. What is that? What is it? Podcast Insider? Is that, I can't remember. No. It's, what is it called?
It's multiple properties. It's
Yeah.
Inside Radio and
Inside
Inside
Radio.
Podcasting. Right.
Yeah.
So there's kind of two separate things, but they're kind of one and the same.
Yeah. So they're one piece of the pie, and then you got James and Company with Pod News and Podcast Business Journal with the other piece. So, it's an interesting move whenever there's consolidation like this. You just wonder if it's how it's going to shape out for the space over the long term.
And I do wonder, is this kind of the beginning of more of similar type of things like this as the industry kind of consolidates a little bit more, economic pullbacks. And we've seen this before, many years ago in the 2008, 2009 timeframe, we saw some companies go away and we saw some consolidate. We saw adjustments, and, who knows, in a couple of years, this industry may look quite different than it does now. So.
I look at, I have a friend, his name's Andy McCaskey. He doesn't do podcasting anymore, but he started off originally doing Slashdot Review.
Right.
And then he was very successful with that show in the very early days of podcasting. He probably made more money in the early days of podcasting than anyone else in the space. He was doing very, very, very well with that show. But it was a daily show, highly produced, and he just burned out. But he lives in Elkhart, Indiana, and he has a big, huge, and I am sure, and I haven't heard from Andy in a couple of years, so Andy, if you're still out there, say hi. But he had a huge interest in the RV industry. So, and being in Elkhart is where a huge percentage of RVs are made in the United States. So he was in RV Central. So he basically started an RV channel. And what he ran up against in advertising was that every RV magazine was owned by one company. There was like 13 RV magazines and there was this funnel, and it was unbreachable as far as being able to break in and get news and information, and because they controlled the locked gates of news in the RV industry. And it's still the same. Now, there's independent podcasts or independent YouTube channels out there that do stuff, but as far as the magazine business, which really, I don't know if the magazine business is even viable anymore, they were for sure like this, you want to buy into our platform, you got to buy into them all. And kind of did this. Right. And it was just one of those things his business failed largely because he was not able to overcome that juggernaut of news control, the news and relationships and everything else. I'm not saying that's going to happen here. We're in a little different situation. We're talking about two properties, not 13. I've talked about it before. I don't think it's not necessarily not public, but podcasternews.com. I basically support the blog posts that go on over there. And I have basically the editorial team just writes. I basically don't say what they write about, what they don't disapprove, approve. So it is truly, from an independent standpoint, it is from a writer standpoint, completely independent. But again, so there is disclosure there. I do write that check, to pay those writers every month. Oftentimes I don't even go over and read what's being posted over there. So, and I think if someone went through the website and looked at it, it's pretty fair. And it's different format. It's blog posts. It's, summaries and thoughts. And, so I think that from that perspective, it's a completely different type of site. So it's not like it's one of those, it's not even really designed to be competing. What it really was designed for was to be an archive of information, of stuff that, that the writers felt were significant, that they could, I basically go back and look at it 10 years from now and say, okay, yeah, this is what happened then. And not necessarily in this short summary, like his newsletter comes out with each day with, 10, 15 items, which is a lot of work. That's a lot of work to put a newsletter together daily.
And James Cridland's been doing that for a few years now. So it's,
Y-
I
you know,
guess
his-
he launched
his-
that in 2017. So
Yeah,
he's been
his
doing it
life
since 2017.
revolves around that thing. Basically,
Oh, yeah.
he's got to put stuff out every day. So
Mhm.
it'll be interesting to see where PBJ goes.
Well, it definitely gives, like I mentioned earlier, it definitely gives James kind of like a business property that he can focus on the business of podcasting. And maybe, as it's turned out, Sounds Profitable started in a partnership with James. Maybe Sounds Profitable now has a competitor.
Well,
with the Podcast Business Journal.
I don't want to talk out of turn, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll just leave it at that because, yeah, well, maybe Sounds Profitable does now have a competitor potentially.
Yeah, I would say that's my takeaway from this, and that's no criticism of anybody. It's just the
Right.
hard facts. I mean, the business side of podcasting, what we've seen with Sounds Profitable is definitely, hit a market and is accelerating, and people are jumping on board and getting involved. And I think James would love to tap into that market more than he currently is. So,
With the disclosure of what I do pay for, I really don't have a dog in a fight on this. And again, it's a different format, but it did make me sit back and think a little bit. Okay, is there an opportunity here to have another voice in the space? And I don't want to be that voice. I don't have the time. I'm already busy enough running a company and doing, 3 to 4 podcasts a week. So that's, the voice, my voice is here on this show. And that's the big enough megaphone that we reach 16 to 17,000 podcasters every week. So figure that's major enough. If we get that up to 20 or 30,000, that would be awesome too. But again, the show's not for everybody.
right.
Oh, there we go. 2022 Sats. I will send my snail mail address in an email. I look forward to stickers, Martin. Yes. I have not sent stickers. I am very, very bad host. Yeah, Martin, send them over to todd@blueberry.com with a big, hey, you owe me stickers, butthead. Just do that, okay? Martin. I would Adam too. I got Adam stickers too. I'm horrible. I need an assistant, Rob.
Yeah, you do.
I should ship you some stickers since you got all the free time and let you ship stickers.
I do have some stickers actually in my bag. So
Yeah.
I do already. Yeah.
We need to put a little better package together.
Yeah. But I don't know that many people know a little bit of the history of the Podcast Business Journal, but it was that organization came out of a radio publication,
Right.
That's been around for a long time. And I know James has had a lot of connection to the radio industry. He considers himself to be a radio futurologist. He kind of built his consulting career on that kind of name for himself. And so having this connection with a former kind of radio publication is an interesting spin-off of this, right? And it just looks like maybe they're, with the economy the way it is, and it was time to, either focus back in on radio and move on from podcasting, because James had probably taken a lot of their market away from them.
Well, to be honest with you,
It sounds profitable too.
I wrote some articles in the early days of PBJ.
Yeah.
I haven't in many years.
Both of us are actually listed on the homepage of the website as editorial contributors to Podcast Business Journal.
I haven't. I didn't even know it still listed that, but I haven't written anything to that website
I haven't either.
in a while. Now I did in the beginning.
Yeah, I think the last time I wrote an article over there, Todd, you're listed. Actually, it still lists me as working for Libsyn, I think. Oh no, it's been changed. James got in there and changed my my listing in there.
So, and maybe maybe there's an opportunity over there to submit something to James again. But we had done, and I'll just full disclosure, we spent some money on PBJ in the early early days, a couple of years ago, we ran some advertising campaigns on PBJ. They were very expensive. They were, I mean, like thousands of dollars expensive. And be honest with you, it was probably some of the worst money I ever spent, because we just didn't get a bump. And not even traffic back to, you would expect if you're sending this out to X thousand, tens of thousands of subscribers, that you're going to get a certain percentage of click-through rates. And it was bad. It was bad. And,
so Todd, both of us are listed as was it editorial board? So we're currently on the editorial board of the Podcast Business Journal.
Okay.
We're still on there, and it does link to articles that we both published over there. The last one I did over there was looks like December 24th, 2018 was the last.
So
article.
where do you click to get to see what you wrote?
If you go up in the upper navigation bar at the top where it says features, click on that, and it drops down to
and then
editorial
go
board.
So the last time for me was October 24th, 2018.
Yep.
Actually, December 6th, 2018. And I only submitted 2 over that time. Now I know
I do have it in my to-do list, James, if you're listening to this. I do have it in my to-do list to actually write an article for you, because I've done that in the past for James too, where I've written articles for him to publish on his Pod News side. So
right.
maybe it's time for us, Todd, to put together a couple of articles for James here.
Ed was not super aggressive either in asking for content. So
that was a little bit off and on. I mean, occasionally he would reach out for quotes on a particular breaking news thing, and I would send him a paragraph or 2 or something. And
so I'm kind of looking through here. Tracy, who's I know very well, she was last one was 22. Mark Asquith was 19. Dan Franks was 18. Let's see, who else? Elsie.
One person that's missing that was on the list is Rob Walsh.
Yeah, I don't see Rob's name on here anymore. Dave Jackson, 21. So really, most of the people have not published anything to this in a couple of years, at least that's linked in the top. So Tracy's the one that has the most number of articles over there, at least that are linked. And I thought I saw some other stuff come in from her before. There's some other writers too. There's Richard Davies. Okay. I see down here. And we didn't get paid for this. This was stuff that we just submitted.
Yeah. It's never been a paid relationship or any kind of a formal, like, advisory editorial board or anything like that. But, I'm open to it if James wants that.
Maybe some of it. And again, I don't know if all this was completely linked up, because I swear I saw stuff in the newsletter from Tracy in recent times. So, but the latest one in here says April 1st, 2022. And okay, so we've got, another boost from Martin. He says, Todd, I'll do that. I like Podcast Business Journal, James' best premises. And then Mike Dell says, I was listed at one time, wrote one article. He sent 1,701 sats. So there's been some folks that have had some interactions over there. So, we'll see how the focus changes, and I think the plan was it a weekly before, or it wasn't daily, wasn't it? Wasn't PBJ daily?
I think he was breaking. Yeah, I think it did have a newsletter, right?
Yeah.
But he mainly just posted in there almost like a real-time breaking news type of a site.
Right.
But I don't think that I ever subscribed to his newsletter per se, but maybe I should do that.
Yeah, Dave Jones sends 5,150 sats. He says, Ed is a really kind person. He really helped that Florida community through a very hard time after the hurricane. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
So I kind of wonder, and James hasn't provided clarity on this yet, on whether or not this newsletter that you sign up for off of the Podcast Biz Journal is going to be an additional newsletter to what he's doing with Pod News.
Or if it's going to be combined.
I don't know.
I don't think so. I think it'd have to be. I don't know.
I think it would have to be a different newsletter.
Yeah, I would think so. Maybe it won't be. Maybe it'd be a combined. Well, I've not seen any Pod News come through PBJ's list, so
Yeah,
he didn't combine the
either.
list. I don't know. I don't know if you can. Yeah, probably would not be advisable to do that. What you'd want to do is send out a PBJ newsletter and say,
That's
hey,
focused on the business of podcasting.
and say, okay, by the
news
way, you can sign up
stuff.
for Pod News, and then Pod News promotes, so it's a, back and forth type of thing. So anyway.
Don't eat me, James Cridland.
Well, I think, I'd like to congratulate James. I mean, I think he's trying to build something that's very impactful. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
So, whether or not there's too much power in one place or another, I think is open for.
I don't think there's too much power.
For debate on that. It'd be great if we had more diverse voices, but I do think that we have multiple newsletters in the podcasting space right now. So it isn't like James is the only one,
Yeah.
But there's other things going on in the world.
Yeah.
I suppose.
But it was one of those things that came through this week, and I just thought it was interesting. And
Todd, do you think that we're seeing, and I've been thinking about this past week, the pathway for new content creators? I know everybody's getting all spun up about what's happening with video and podcasting, right? YouTube is redirecting their big spotlight over to saying, let's create a section in YouTube for podcasts, right?
okay, but they did it, but I don't think they're really promoting it.
It's not that impactful, right?
No.
But it is giving people kind of like a second thought, right? Around video. And I think as I talk to new creators and I talk to networks and stuff, and I do sense, and maybe you are as well, kind of a renewed interest or a renewed focus or a renewed energy around video.
Well, what I hear is, do I have to do this?
Yeah, I hear that too.
Do I have to do this?
Do I have to start with video and audio?
Well,
can I just start
even
with
regular
audio?
content creators say, do I have to do this? And my answer is no. You
Right,
don't.
and I also hear it's like, well, should I just start out with video and then do the audio later?
I'm not hearing that at all.
Well, you probably wouldn't, because the people you're talking to are talking to you about podcasting. But I'm trying to speak with other people from other sectors that are maybe
something?
thinking more about streaming.
Here's the thing: knock yourself out. You want to go live? Knock yourself out. Good luck.
Well, it's not entirely about live. It's just producing video content, right? Right.
You know what? Go ahead. Here's my thing about that. If you think it's hard to break out in podcasting, if you think it's hard, it is 100 times harder in video.
Why is it harder, Todd?
Okay, let's do a little Google here.
Okay.
And we've done this before. How many?
It's a great question for Chat GPT.
How many I'm doing.
How is video harder than podcasting?
There are 3.7 million new videos uploaded to YouTube every day.
Yeah.
271,330 hours of content.
New videos, but how many series?
Okay.
Or how many shows?
Oh, most of those YouTubers are series. There is
No, but those are episodes, right? So really what you're talking about is comparing channels to podcast shows, right?
Well, there's still 3.7 million videos uploaded every day to channels.
Two channels, right?
That are typically very focused. They aren't just, they're not like
niche.
They're not like TikTok. But, let's compare this. Let's compare this to what we're seeing, and I'm going to go over here and pull up the stats. Here's the stats. In the last 30 days, there has been, in the podcasting space, 2,274,376,000 episodes in the last 30 days. Compared to, what did I just say? 33.7 million a day. So the entire
of new episodes
of
right,
new
correct.
videos have been uploaded to YouTube, and so podcasting is not even in 1 month creating the number of new episodes as compared to YouTube. It's like 35 to 1. If we multiply this out, it's maybe more than that. It's like 45 to 1. For every new podcast episode, there are 45 not comparable, but videos that are put out that are specifically focused on video, that have been focused on video from the beginning, who are doing all the tricks and stuff to be a YouTube personality.
Right.
How many channels are you subscribed to on YouTube, Rob?
Maybe 15, maybe.
Okay. I'm subscribed to more, but not all of them come out on a regular basis. But again,
Right. That's very true.
I don't listen. I'm in my car. I'm in the office. Whatever I'm doing when there's no TV in front of me, I'm consuming podcasts. So go ahead. You know what? Here's the thing. Here's the beauty. Here's the beautiful thing. We're doing live right now. We've been on YouTube forever. I encourage all of those creators that have the itch to be YouTubers, go do it. See ya. Because guess what? I don't have to fight them for competition. For listening ears. They're one less episode that's being published in the podcasting space, the true podcasting space that I have to compete with. Go.
Todd, but they're still considered to be podcasts.
No, they're not. If they're only YouTube only, they're not. Stop. They are a show on YouTube.
So this whole topic was kind of sparked by the flow of articles that have been coming out of Ashley Carmen. I don't know if you've been following her.
I have not.
Bloomberg articles, but she put out a new one here on April 6th saying, as podcasters pivot to video, so that's the headline, as podcasters pivot to video, independents don't buy the hype.
Oh, absolutely.
So you can see, kind of the genesis of the topic that I'm talking about here right now is like YouTube is increasingly courting podcasters.
Great.
And building out its offering, which still isn't built yet. But independent production studios say they are not interested.
Well, good for them. Smart.
But it is an intriguing question. Podcast. The lead on this is as podcasters pivot to video.
They're not
Independents
pivoting.
don't buy the hype.
They're not pivoting.
So it's assuming that the hype is saying you should pivot to video.
Well, there's people that are using Headliner. That seems to be the tool. They're putting their video podcast up on with some graphic. More power to you.
But it doesn't say as podcasters pivot to video podcasting. It says as they pivot to video. Now that can include TikTok videos. That can include reels, stories.
Here's the simple fact. People that are doing podcasts are creative. I'm not going to call them creators. They're creative. And some of them are going to want to play around with these I play around with these different models. I play around with it. But I know for my show, the show that has this sponsor, GoDaddy.
Is that your sponsor, GoDaddy, Todd?
For my tech show.
For your but it's not a sponsor on this show, is it?
No, it's not.
but
But-
it could be.
Yeah, it could be. We could add them tomorrow.
We could.
We could.
Is there a reason why we don't?
Because I'm contracted under Geek News Central.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
But here's
That's
the
a big
deal.
picture.
My bread is buttered.
Yeah.
Not only by my sponsor, but by my listeners, the folks that are sending sats, people that
Right.
are sending me a monthly PayPal donation.
Yeah.
If I swap to YouTube, I would not be able to pay rent. I would not be able to pay rent and the insurance and the light bill and everything it takes to run this whole thing. You know what my overhead is to do this, to do it right, and not do it in a space in my loft. It's not cheap.
Well, you have your whole, it's a multi-room studio.
Right,
What you have
right.
here.
But
right?
this, I primarily use this. I don't use the other rooms too much. But it's a whole, most.
But I mean, you have to be honest, Todd. Many years ago, I think you had this vision that you were going to do a lot of video in each of these separate studios, right?
Right,
Because
right.
they have 3 separate
I
rooms.
do product demos. When I get product reviews, I do use the product
Right.
demo room still. The green
Mhm.
screen room's been the room that I haven't used hardly at all.
Right. And then you also have the ability to do shows out at your desk, out at the front door, right?
Right. Well, I can do the show from any of these 3 bays. I could do this show from the stand up too. So, that's not an issue. It's just,
Yeah.
I'm comfortable sitting right here. And in all honesty though, the video, again, my goal for video was one thing. There was really one reason I did video. When I was in Hawaii, I was bored. I was bored at 8:00 at night, and I wanted at least someone in the chat room to say, "Hey, you're being dumb," or whatever it may be. If you're watching
Right.
on Facebook, make sure you check in, say hello, tell us how dumb we're being today. So Mike says 1,000 sats. Most of us that do audio have faces for radio, not TV or video. I like audio. Don't really want to do video. So again,
But do we think that over a period of time, if YouTube does get their act together,
no,
that we could see a renewed benefit from doing both?
no, nope, I don't. Because, well, for doing both,
Both.
if you can build a substantial audience in either, that's the only benefit. Because what is, why are you going to spend this extra time to do video and the editing and everything that goes along with doing a YouTube channel and get some pennies for it and the time to produce video? Production, my production audio, if I could do my just audio only, I would be done. I would literally be done with post editing on this show within 10 minutes of its completion.
Mm-hmm.
The video adds a whole nother 45 minutes to the processing. So you multiply that over 4 or 5 times a week. That's 4 or 5 additional hours that I spend just getting the video up online.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the audio, I hit record, I get done, I cut both ends, I upload it to Blueberry, it goes to Auphonic, it gets media mastered, and I hit publish. I'm done in 7 minutes. Literally from the time I take longer to write my show notes than it does to have the video ready to go.
Yeah.
So what does I have to do with the video? Get the video, crop it. Then I have to extract the audio. I have to process the audio. Put the audio back into the video. Have to export the video, wait 10, 15 minutes for the audio to be exported. Then I spend another 10 minutes waiting for it to upload because it's big. It's a gig, and even at 20 megs up here, it still takes 10 minutes to update. So it's just more time.
Mm-hmm.
And what have we gotten for it? Well, I think like 180 views on one of our videos over on YouTube. We don't get many views on YouTube. We get some live people that come in here on Facebook and say hello and throw us some cheese, But
I do see a lot of shows over on YouTube that are getting, 10, 20, 30,000
Rob,
views.
big shows, not independent podcasts.
I know, but what
high-end production?
What I'm always looking at is, well, what's the difference between a show that's done like we're doing here that gets 30,000 views on YouTube and a show that's done just like this in audio?
People have more time to listen.
That gets 30,000 views.
People have a lot more. Why? What is it? I can monetize 100% of the podcast views.
But what is it about those shows, right, that works
on YouTube?
YouTube and works in podcasts.
Personality, entertainment, engaging. It's different. You're not having a you're not having a one-to-one conversation on YouTube.
Yeah. But I watch shows that do that. It's like one guy is like you with your Geek News Central shows talking to the, is it just the topics that they're talking about?
You know what? You figure that out. You figure that out. You can be the next 100 million people subscribe to a YouTube channel.
Well, that's what I'm trying to understand here. I know that this article, I was reading through this article that Carmen wrote, and she talks to like 3 or 4, audio networks, right? Podcast audio networks of sorts. And
so why don't they want to do it?
Just, I guess it's kind of a focus thing for them. It's, I can read a quote from one of them. It feels like it says, the exact quote here is, I think brands and publishers get infatuated with new formats all the time. Sharia Atkins, co-founder of Wondery Media, said via email, and this isn't quite another Clubhouse moment, but it is a moment in which everyone feels that they must have video embedded in their podcasting campaigns. Video can both be a
hold on. You said
a content stream.
You said something. Campaigns, advertising campaign.
Correct. Podcasting campaigns. I'm not sure if she was meaning advertising campaigns.
Well, what is a podcasting campaign? I've never heard of such a thing.
Well, it says everyone feels they must have video embedded in their podcasting campaigns.
Okay.
So I'm not exactly precisely sure what she means by that either, but it says video can both be a marketing tool and an additional content stream. But I think video, for the sake of checking the video box, is futile.
Oh. Yeah, because you know why it's futile? 3.7 million new videos being uploaded to YouTube every day, 271,330 hours of content, and an average of 4.4 minutes long. How about that?
So, yes. So the same person from Wonder Media said her team considered hiring a full-time video staffer, but decided against it. They primarily view video as a marketing opportunity rather than a destination for a listener.
So I put a short up on my YouTube channel. It's a little short from this show. Never done shorts before. And let me go over and look at the count on that short. That short had a little bit of clickbait. It said, can the Podcast Academy move beyond just the awards? I got 88 views on that. Whereas I had a Shell portable power station review that I did in my little review room that was 4 minutes and 13 seconds. That got 128 views. Some of my shorter videos, 4 to 9 minutes, do much, much better than this show. If we go back and look at this show from last week, this show last week did, let's 45 views. Oh, my episode where I really did some clickbait, Tesla employees sharing videos captured on customer cars, that got 230. So again, clickbait titles and great graphic art and that type of stuff helps drive views on YouTube. But did that gain me any new listeners to the audio podcast? I don't know. Maybe.
It's hard to make a direct correlation there, right?
Anybody that's listening to this show right now, did you find this show because of YouTube or videos? And if you did, we'd just love to hear your commentary. Send us an email. You can send it to todd@blueberry.com and I'll read it on the next show. But again, I think.
Yeah. So some of the other networks that Ashley talked to made a comment around bringing on additional team members that have video expertise was an expense and a cost that they weren't willing to bear at this time in the
video's
economy.
Video's expensive.
Yeah. So, you have to weigh it with the, what's bringing in the revenue today is primarily probably audio. And to venture out into video is a risky investment at this point.
To do audio, you need nary a mic, less than $100 investment. And you can sit down and you can spread the word. And for a little bit more, from $0 to about $20 a month, you can be podcasting and have global distribution on every platform, including YouTube, if you so choose, with audio only. Some hardly no expense. Video, that changes the game. You need some sort of good camera. You need good lighting. You have a whole different recording flow. There's just.
But what if you have all that already?
Well, then make videos.
Then you can do it.
Right? Yeah, sure. Why not?
It's like us, Todd. We have our own studios.
Yep.
We have all the equipment that we need to do it. It's just a matter of coming up with a format.
I had someone in here the other day, and they basically were walking through, and I, it's kind of showing the studio off a little bit, and I said, just kind of disregard this pile of stuff. If I said, I built this thing 10 years ago. I said, had I just getting started, I said, the cost would be much lower. I wouldn't have to have, I'd be using OBS, and I'd be, have maybe one powerful PC, and that's it. And a couple of cameras, and, half the stuff wouldn't exist. I wouldn't need it. I have it, so I use it. When it burns up, then I'll downsize. But I think that, again, a different motivation for doing video for me. It's never been about building a successful YouTube channel, ever.
Yeah.
It's just like the value for value. What I've gotten more excitement today in the 4 boosts that we've got and the engagement from the folks that are listening to the show. That, to me, if we'd have had boosts back when I was thinking about starting video in the early days, I'd have never done video, because this would have fed my inner desire.
You've been doing video for what?
More than 10 years.
When did you start doing video?
I had the date at one time. It was around episode 650 or so.
Okay.
So
was that in that time frame, Todd, when video podcasting was kind of all the rage?
Well, what was happening is you had some of those characters that were on Ustream. Justine.
Oh, right.
Justine, and a few others.
Yeah, she's still around.
So there was not Callie, but Loria was starting. There was 2 or 3 that were starting doing video right around the same time. So, and I was fortunate. I had a great sponsor who was, allowing my bank account to be used to buy cool stuff that I wouldn't have been able to afford otherwise. When I went out and bought that first TriCaster, that was $7,500. Had it for 2 or 3 years. I traded it in and spent another $25,000 to upgrade. And then a number of years later, spent another $25,000 to upgrade. So, it wasn't cheap to do video in those early days. not to mention the cameras.
Right.
1,700, 1,700, you get lights, $100, 250, 250, 100, 250, it goes on and on,
Mhm.
So, but now you got people that are doing TikToks with a cell phone in the middle of the street getting hit by cars, and, they're going viral and doing 5 million views
Yeah.
with their cell phone. So, it depends on your goal. If your goal is to go viral, then go on TikTok and go get run over by a car or something.
You get lots of views.
Yeah, you'll get lots of views. The insurance might not do well, but,
Or your
or your body.
might be in the hospital. Right.
But in the end, storytellers happen all over the place. There are some YouTube channels I love to follow because I love the personalities. But just like
Yeah, I think
but here's the thing. I've been watching a lot of YouTube since COVID started. Some of those channels that I started watching at the beginning of COVID, I am now unsubscribed from because I'm bored with them. And it happens the same way in podcasting. People get bored with you and they leave.
or which I've seen this happen too, a show will kind of move in a different direction around its content, and
Yep.
it becomes less interesting. As I've noticed this with a couple of YouTube channels that are pretty popular, is that over time the content channel will evolve in its content and how it's presented or how it's produced or whatever, and it just kind of loses the magic to some degree on occasion. So it's an interesting evolution. So sometimes the content will evolve in a way that helps it grow, or it'll evolve in a way that
those
maybe
big
causes a
YouTube
decline.
channels have big teams. It
Some of
looks
them
like
do, some of them don't.
I think some of the bigger ones have really big teams. You think they don't have a team?
No, I know quite a few of them, and some of them are. It just depends on the skills and the abilities of the person running the channel. But I've seen very big channels operated by one person, and I've seen other ones that are run by that have probably 6 people involved. So, and both of them are successful channels.
Right. And, they're doing the type of views they can afford, the staff and everything goes just like big podcasts. They've got big staff, big budgets.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not so much anymore.
It's just very unusual. And I have to really think back on it. And it's sometimes hard to find shows that are very successful as audio podcasts and very successful,
very hard
channels on YouTube at the same time.
It's very hard.
And
it's more prevalent now than it was, but it's very hard. It's still a small number. Yeah.
And it's just been one of those challenges that I have to figure out, well, what is that nexus that makes that work? And I have yet to figure that out, because most of the ones out there are either successful on one side or the other.
But why does this show?
Like this show does well on the audio side,
and it does. I think the last time I checked, maybe 80-20.
20%. Yeah, right.
And the tech show that I do is like 70-30. So.
So what you're saying is that your tech show does 10% better on the video side?
Yeah.
Than this show does?
Yep. Why? Because I'm probably doing more flashing on screens, on articles, and I don't know. I don't know why people are watching. Maybe they're just putting it up and it's on, and it's just, who knows? I don't know.
It just could be the broader topics that you cover on that show may appeal to,
maybe,
I don't know, more people over there.
But I don't have a circus going on here in the studio, so there's not a lot to look at,
Well, I have stuff running around behind me.
Yeah, you got lights and stuff going on, but it's not a circus,
I'm not doing jumping jacks and.
But I think that's why shows that do sports shows and that type of stuff. That's why they do well on YouTube, because they got highlight reels to play and
there's overlays.
All that kind of stuff.
I mean, which is probably stuff that we could do a better job out here. But
again, putting up a lower third, you know, we can flip in a screen like that. I can, you know,
it's eye candy, Todd. It's eye candy. I know when I watch our show on YouTube, it's very similar to many of the other shows that I watch that are very popular on YouTube, and I think it really probably more to do with how many people are interested in
podcast
tracking the topics that we talk about
that's
here.
probably true.
I mean, if you look at the largest industry newsletter in the podcasting space is James Cridland Pod News, and it's got like 27,000.
Yeah, 26 or 27,000. Not very big.
Right. So that tells you kind of how big the attention economy is for this.
Yeah.
And
being we're, so our numbers are doing okay compared to, I guess,
I mean,
if we're in that attention economy.
Right. I mean, the last numbers that I've heard from you is that we're kind of up in that 5-digit range.
Right.
Also.
So I guess, again, it goes back to, what you want to do. I think
the topic is, and what's the interest.
And I think people
tapping into a zeitgeist.
And I think people have to, this is the beauty. There's no rules in podcasting. Knock yourself out and spend a lot of money and go on YouTube and do all those things and be successful and build a big channel and then get pennies on the dollar from YouTube and get deplatformed and be careful for every word you say. And hope you don't get demonetized.
Well, that is the risk over there. You're right. That's why we're seeing Rumble pick up an interest too. Having shows that will start on YouTube. You keep
talking about this Rumble. I have never been on Rumble.
You have never been on Rumble?
Yeah, never been on Rumble. I'm almost afraid to go over here because it almost sounds like I'm going to an adult website, but I'm not.
It's not.
So
it's just another platform that doesn't censor content, doesn't moderate content.
Well, Alex Jones is right there front and center, so they definitely don't moderate.
But it does have a lot of the same type of functionality that YouTube has.
Oh, they have a podcast section too, right here. They have a podcast area.
Yep.
So
and there's a lot of
and a lot of live. There's lives. I guess we'll have to create a Rumble account and then go live over there too.
Right.
Maybe we'll find a new audience over there. But
maybe we can drop our YouTube stream and we can talk about controversial subjects.
Oh, well, I don't think we ever talk about controversial subjects because you don't have to worry about it. You can say whatever you want controversial, Rob, because guess what? You can't get fired.
Well, yeah, that's probably mostly true.
You can be the hammer right now.
Okay, I can be the hammer. Okay, I know that totally fits my personality.
You're right.
The hammer.
It does.
Right.
It was kind of funny because on the Podcasting 2.0 podcast, they had the team from Buzzsprout on, and we're interviewing Adam and Dave were interviewing them, and they were like, who's going to be the spokesperson? Who's going to be the guy that's going to put the hammer on people when they're not certified and tell them they can't be? And my name came up, and I was like, whoa, hold up.
Oh, it's this way.
Hold up.
Point to the guy.
Hold up now, and it's just like, we don't even have a formal agreement on what any board of leadership is going to look like, or none of that's been created. So hold up now.
Right.
I think we can do a collective speak. The podcast standards team or committee or but it's true that at some point there will have to be one hammer person. But
so have you added the new kind of icon to your website yet?
Yes,
Todd?
I have. I've added it. It's not on the
I saw that the
homepage.
Buzzsprout folks did that too.
Yeah,
I saw
they
that
put it
they
on
had
the homepage. We didn't put it on the homepage. We put it on our about page.
There we go. It's the podcast standards group kind of icon logo.
Yep. So yeah, we put it on our about page. So right besides our IB, which actually that logo I got to get changed out. I'm supposed to not be using that logo. So, yeah. So we put it on the about page. I mean, maybe that's being chicken, but the problem is I have to the homepage. Homepage is pretty. You don't want too much distraction on the homepage.
Right.
So Rumble's an alternative to YouTube. I have some thoughts about the service, but I'm testing it out as a backup. Todd is the hammer. Martin sent that over. 1,700 Liberty Boost 1,776 stats.
Well, some shows are doing like let's say half of their show live on YouTube and live on Rumble, and then they'll
cut out
they
YouTube.
stray into topics that they think that they're going to get cut off or censored on YouTube. Then they'll stop the stream on
that's
YouTube
interesting.
and continue on Rumble.
Yeah. Say, okay, we're leaving because we can't talk about what we want to talk about here, and we're going to go over
because
here.
They'll demonetize our channel and they'll.
So what kind of topics are they moving to on Rumble? Are they talking about Rona and those types of conversations? Are they talking about?
Well, the ones that are typically censored, right? If you're, I don't necessarily want to say what the topics are, but they're basically ones that are controversial or ones that, could be considered to be, a form of hate speech.
Well, today you can look at
stuff.
Today you can look cross-eyed at somebody and be accused of doing hate speech. So,
right, I think the bar is pretty darn low for hate speech, right? And which I'm pretty opposed to because I think all of us need to grow a pair a little bit.
Did you listen?
And have a little thick skin.
Did you listen to the commentary between Elon and BBC? BBC.
I did hear that. Yeah,
you did. So therein is the classic example of, again, you look sideways at someone and they're going to think that you're hating.
And that's also, it just raises questions of credibility, is what it does in my view, and trust, because a person that can't stand behind their views with legitimate reasons need to be questioned. And that's exactly what Elon did. It was say, you're making claims against somebody saying that something is hate speech, but you can't give any examples of that actually in the real world actually happening, but yet you're accusing someone of something. Right.
Now, if I don't like you and I don't like your business or I don't like what you're doing, I've been pretty, I'm not afraid to say I don't like somebody.
Right. And I think if you look at even the terms of service from your platform or any number of the podcast hosting platforms, there is a clause in many of those terms of service that talk about hate speech. And it is very specific.
Very specific.
Very focused.
Yep.
And how people are using hate speech now as a weapon against others is not specific. And it's very opinion focused.
That's right.
It's not based on facts. It's based on emotions. And that's where we're crossing over the line.
And it's oftentimes, it's like, in my brain, I want to say something one way. And then I think, well, if I say it that way, then someone's going to take it the wrong way, even though I'm not meaning it that way. And, having to be very, very careful to not be over aggressive and be, accused of mansplaining or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
It's one of those.
I don't want to offend anybody any more than anybody else does.
No, not at all. But
you can't censor yourself from having a view on something that's important, and that's kind of what's happening here.
Well, people are
you have a view that's contrary to what I believe.
Well, people are self-censoring themselves out of preservation now,
right?
Because they know if they say what they really think, that they'll get
Yeah.
canceled.
Right. And that's, some of that is probably okay. I mean, I think that there is a line you probably don't want to cross even in a normal environment. But
Sure.
this certainly is not a normal environment. This is hypersensitivity. This is weaponizing of
And here's the next
this
challenge is,
against other people.
let's say we decide to take this channel and stream it on Rumble. Just because we do, then will people say, well, you're on Rumble because you're trying to say something you can't say on other platforms? And then or we'll get labeled as, well, you must be right.
on the right, or you must be a conservative if you're streaming on Rumble.
Is Rumble considered a conservative platform?
Well, no, but I think anybody that's in favor of free speech now is considered, well, you must be,
Well, I hate to say this,
conservative, or you must be, somebody that's, like a terrorist on the right. Or
well,
something
I
like
hate
that,
to say this,
just
but
because you want free speech.
in the podcasting space, the far left views are getting canceled on platforms as often as people that are on the right.
Well,
It's not
that's
it's not just the far right and the far left. The far left is getting canceled on some of these platforms, specifically one. Don't ever and for God's sakes, don't ever talk about Rona on Spotify as a topic. Do not talk about it on Spotify. You talk about that as a topic on Spotify, and kiss your episode, or maybe even your whole show go die from being over there.
Yeah, and increasingly it's guilt by association too. I think if you're a guest that guests on a show that's considered to be, like an Alex Jones type show,
Right.
now you're going to get lumped in
Right.
there. It has
Right.
nothing to do with what you say. It's what people,
Or if you,
get the impression.
on the other hand,
Nobody is going to be actually listening to what you say on that channel because they don't agree with that
Right.
channel.
on another note, people that have been on Rogan have seen huge success, huge bump in numbers of listeners to their show. So it goes two ways,
They can, right? I think you're always taking a gamble now,
I'm just going to be me, and I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and as long as I'm not saying something that I'm just here's what you got to do. You just got to have some common sense. You don't want to libel anyone.
Right.
You don't want to accuse anyone. You don't want to state a fact about someone unless you absolutely unequivocally, for sure, 100% know that is a fact and willing to defend that in court.
But the problem is not both sides of any issue are willing to play by those rules. It's the problem.
And you better be learning to say, in my opinion, a lot. In my opinion, or I think, or this is my express view, or my, because.
Yeah. Because, what happened to Elon was a perfect example of what I'm saying here, is that there was no evidence of what this accusation that was being made against Twitter. There was no evidence.
That's right.
But yet that accusation was being made.
Mm-hmm.
And then the guy, if he was questioned about it, was trying to change the subject, didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So
if you're going to argue about something, please do a little research and have some facts before you come to the table and guess. I speculate on this show too, but I'll make sure I'm saying I'm speculating, or I think, or maybe this is where I think something's going, and I don't get it right all the time, for sure.
And these are good things for podcasters to think about when they're doing their own shows, is that occasionally topics will come up that you have to think about, do I want to talk about that? And how do I want to talk about that in a fair and equitable way that's not going to upset people, but yet at the same time is going to be honest and truthful and not, blow some smoke at somebody just because it's politically correct.
Right.
So there's moderation to be had here.
Boy, I miss the days of where, the Daily Download, what that show was about, right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine a Daily Download being done today?
Right.
We're not talking about downloading software, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I did go to an event in New York that had a studios that were in like apartments. And I did see one of the studios had a microphone installed in the bathroom,
Oh, really?
and it had sound padding on the walls
Wow.
and all that stuff.
Was it
right?
just so you could pull the microphone up while you were on the throne? Is that where it was at?
Yep, exactly.
Well, there you
Isn't
go.
that a convenient?
Now the daily
convenient?
download can be rebirthed in a studio in New York.
I've got an actual picture of it. I could pull
Oh,
it
are
up
you
on the screen
serious?
and I could show
That's funny. I bet you no one has recorded a podcast in there.
you. I think it was more of a set.
Yeah, it was a joke. And
Yeah.
little did they know. Fire up the mic. Let's go.
It was actually an exhibition, a real world exhibition of podcasts
Oh,
at the On Air Fest event in New York. So this was like on the top floor of this apartment complex where all of the apartments were set up to physically portray a particular podcast, right, in the real world.
right.
So it played a little bit of the episode in the background and had props and stuff, and this particular one had a microphone right next to the toilet.
Oh.
So it's like, just like we were talking about, it's
So-
the perfect place to do the daily download.
So what was your takeaway from that event then? What did you learn from the creators there? And, are they, what's the,
Well, I was impressed by the creative element of thinking about a podcast and representing it in the real world with props and physical positioning of speakers and stuff. So it was like that kind of sound experience, right? Which is very much a part of that On Air Fest, which was more about highly produced content, ones that are creating, using spatial audio, using those kind of sound depth technologies, right? So you start to create an environment around your podcast, right? A feeling and emotion, and using props to portray that.
you mean, Rob, having
Yes.
sound effects like this on the show is not spatial sound design?
It's ASMR. Yes. Speak very softly.
Yes, that's right. People spend a lot of money to do that kind of production, and they have high.
Budgets.
No, they have high expectations of success. I was talking
That's true.
with a client of ours, a business client, and we were going through the statistics. Basically, they're trying to get a handle on where their show's going and what it's doing. And we had a good hour-long conversation. It's a company that's been with us for a while and it's well known in the space. And just going through that whole thing. And they said, and they basically were like, have we hit our plateau of where we can be for listeners? And I said, really, you have to determine, if, and they've been fairly niche. I've said, if you're going to stay fairly niche, I said, you need to think about how many people would come to a conference. The example I gave was how many people would come to a conference for this niche content, would come and spend 3 days and go to sessions and stuff like that. And they, that was kind of taken back as a, because that's what I'm trying to make people understand is if depending on the type of content you're doing, to have a successful show does not mean you have to have 100,000 listeners.
No, you don't.
If you're a small business, if you're reaching 1,000 or 2,000 of highly targeted listeners, I think that's a rousing success. And if it's meeting the goals, and boy, I tell you, that messes people's heads up these days too. Rob, start asking podcasters, what is the goal of your show? What's the goal? And
Yeah,
I think what
I
you're
do
going to
ask them that.
I think
That's
what-
actually one of the first questions I ask anybody.
I think what you're going to find sometimes is they don't know.
Yeah, most don't know.
And
Sometimes I don't know what the goal is of this show.
I think the goal of this show is very simple. We come here
I
and
know
give
it
our
is.
opinions on podcasting and talk to podcasters and hope that they appreciate our opinion.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And talk about topics that maybe don't get talked about enough, or maybe hadn't been thought about by many in the industry. Like this topic around video. I was playing a little bit of a devil's advocate, but
Sure.
it's definitely a hot topic right now. And you and I both are a little bit of a contradiction in our own views on this, because we do so much video. So
Yeah, but also, again, the reason we do, well, what are we? We like the attention.
oh, is that what it is?
We're podcasters. Come on.
Well, of course. Of
Hey,
course.
Felix, thanks for saying hello. I missed earlier. Martin, Mike, thanks for saying hello on Facebook. Appreciate it. Yeah, so
It would be dishonest to say that if you're a podcaster, you don't like attention, because then you're kind of doing the wrong thing then.
So Harold on YouTube says, "Good afternoon, gentlemen. I listen to YouTube videos all day long and have for years. Note, I only listen to your show on YouTube. Great conversation. You should bring folks from Think Media onto your show to add their current YouTube video perspective, as it's always changing." I don't know who Think Media is. Do you know who they are?
Yeah, I think I've heard of them before. Right.
So we had a boost that came in. Who was that? That was from Lysum. He says, another 1776 Liberty boost. Robin Todd, appreciate your opinions. Freedom of expression, best premise, Martin. So love that.
So
17.
Think Media.
Yeah, he said that we
Let's
should talk to Think Media.
see what they're doing. Think Media on YouTube. So it's a YouTube channel, obviously. It's loading still, but
Yeah. So I just, it goes back again, the podcasting space, there's a lot of people very angry about what YouTube has done.
right.
I'm hearing significant hostility to what YouTube has done and trying. Dave Weiner's pissed off. Of course, Dave gets mad all the time. There are others in the space that are upset for the
At
hijacking.
what YouTube has done in the studio around taking podcasts as a name.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
Yeah.
and again, I think we have to, and podcasters that are listening to this we have to just continue to be advocates of understanding the value of open RSS and keep reminding content creators the reason why podcasting is unique in the audio creation space or video creation space. And it is unique. There's no other medium like it that guarantees that you, as a content creator, creating whatever content you're creating, can be syndicated everywhere. And no matter what happens in this world, as long as your RSS feed is online, you can still be listened to.
Yeah.
No matter what. You cannot be prevented. You cannot be deplatformed. You cannot be taken off the air. There's no other
Right.
place like this that exists today. You can have your
Right.
Facebook channel canceled. You can have your YouTube channel canceled. You can be taken off Twitch, Twitter, everywhere. You can be removed. Not saying that this is going to happen, but it happens.
Yeah, it does.
Someone brings the hammer. Or someone steals your channel. That's a big thing now. People are stealing channels on YouTube.
And that's
people,
why we were talking about the move towards Rumble. It's, YouTube is putting themselves in a position where they're losing more and more large shows to a platform like Rumble.
So again, if we just continue to remember, and these small talking points, we don't have to be religious about it.
Mm-hmm.
But why have we done the thing like the podcast standards group? Why did we do that? Because we all felt that there was enough noise out there with companies that were trying to move podcasting into their little barrel and their little wheelhouse. Hey, look what Spotify done. They don't even.
They were criticizing us because there wasn't enough innovation in
Well,
RSS.
not only that, they now you have to manually turn on RSS feeds on your Spotify creator account in order to get an RSS feed.
It's optional.
I'd love to see that number. I'd love to see that ratio of how many turned it on and how many haven't.
Right.
I had a conversation, I'm not kidding you, the other day. Where did I have that? Someone applied for the podcast awards. And they said, it's not letting me go past because I'm not entering an RSS feed. What is that? And I said, that is the link that you've used to subscribe to Apple Podcasts and other places. And the person came back and said, well, I'm not any of those places. I don't have what you're talking about. And I said, well, what platform are you on? And the conversation ended. They didn't reply. But here you have people trying. So I've been creating content for a year. I'm like, great. All you got to do is put your show name in there, put the information, put the feed for your show. So whether we know that you're technically a podcast, and this individual was completely confused. So I tried to do a little education in my email of what an RSS feed was and what it does and why it's important, and I wonder if he went off and was like, what kind of crazy stuff is this guy talking about? We don't need listeners to understand what an RSS feed is, but a podcaster doggone better will.
Yeah.
Better understand how it's important. Or we're screwed. We'll all be over on YouTube begging for pennies and not getting any boost. I'm not getting some of this new cool. We won't be lit and live. We'll be live, but we won't be lit. It's
Yeah. So it looks like Podcast Guru app has live episodes and boost support now.
Yep.
I don't know if that's been put out yet.
Yep. I heard that. And then Pocket Cast is adding stuff, and there's more apps coming on lit. So, it's slow troll. We're going to continue to move the movement forward. But every podcaster is listening to the show. If you're not using a new podcast app from podcastapp.com, shame on you. If you're listening to this show and you want the space to move forward, get off your butts and try some of this stuff. Play around, experiment. And if your hosting provider is not providing you this information, ask them, how come I cannot participate in this new ecosystem?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't want to participate in the new ecosystem, do not complain when YouTube and Spotify continue to try to infringe and lock content up.
Right.
We need soldiers in the field.
Yeah.
2,200 is note to self. How is Substack's podcast feature working? Is it built on a real simple syndication feed? I don't know. I don't even know what Substack's doing.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Yeah, I have. Someone asked me the other day if they could use Substack and still have their RSS feed on their own website, and I don't know how to answer that. Someone that's hosting on Substack will have to answer that question. I don't know what they're doing. If there's no RSS feed with Substack, it's not a podcast offering. It's just hosting audio file. But I don't know. I don't know what they're doing.
Hey, Todd, have you heard of this new? I don't know if it's new. I'm trying to figure out what it is. It's an app. It's called Strava. You heard of this before?
Strava?
It's Strava. Strava. It looks like Spotify and them teamed up for a first place integration.
Strava.com, STA. But how do you spell it again?
Strava. Strava.
.com?
Yes.
All right. Yes, I found it. Some sort of exercise app. That's what it looks like. And they
Yeah.
teamed up with Spotify to play podcasts while people are running. Is that what they
I
did?
guess so.
Well,
Yeah.
I tell you, that's where we talked about more than a year ago. That's where we thought podcasting would go, is into more apps. We
Yep.
integrate with apps like this. So, that was probably a smart move by Spotify to do that.
Yeah, I've always thought that the various verticals in the podcasting space would get us, kind of associated with
Right.
certain other types of content apps.
But
Almost like the same model what's been happening to magazines, right? So you have a magazine that has a particular, like the Horse Network
right.
deal with that magazine company that Glenn did.
Well, that's just the same type
Or
of
that kind of stuff.
That's the same type of example. And Glenn was figured a way to infiltrate that group, and that group controls a whole bunch of horse magazines. So unlike Andy, who couldn't break into the RV market, Glenn found a way to,
it was probably too early
be added value,
I mean, Andy was doing that so long ago. That
it was
just too early.
Long time ago.
Yeah. But, so we may see this happen more with other content vertical apps, right? Where certain genres of podcast content can get integrated into, let's say, a lifestyle magazine type app or something like that. So you get those kind of programs over there doing deals.
So I want to talk to you about something that is potentially coming to podcasting 2.0. A little bit of a talk about it on the last show. It's actually a feature that was, I think Kevin over at Buzzsprout was the one that suggested. I think it's called Podroll. So remember the old days of blog rolls?
Yeah.
I think for me, that's how I discovered so many different websites. As I would get on a website and I would look at the blog roll that blogger would recommend, and I would follow those links into Neverland. I probably added the majority of the stuff that's still in my feed reader today by blog rolls. Of course, blog rolls went the way of the dinosaur. And for those of you that don't know what a blog roll was basically, these are the 10, 15 sites that Todd recommends that he loves.
Right, as your playlist of sorts.
And it was, it was my go-to, and is what I would recommend as a content creator. I would say my little site that, as a blog at those early days, it got 200, 300 views a week. Those were the sites that I was reading. Podroll is the same, it's a feature. It's the same idea. And it's basically.
So you knew that Podroll as a company name is actually a different company that's offering buyers and sellers of podcasts.
Oh,
right?
A Podroll is a company. All right. Well,
it's a company. It's actually, yeah.
Well, this is not going to be a .com. This is going to be a feature.
Oh, it's just a feature.
It's a feature. Right. And Podroll is a feature that potentially will allow me to put together a recommended list of shows that I listen to. So if you really think about it, you have probably 10, 15 shows that you are regular listeners to that you love in your podcast repertoire that's in your playlist. I probably got 20 or 25 that are my, my regular listening one, besides the one I listen to on a regular basis just for research. But imagine if you could say, if a podcast listener could be in an app, and they're listening to the show, and at the top of that app, there are the 10 shows that Todd recommends.
Right.
Well, what do we do now? What did we used to do? We used to recommend shows all the time that we listened to in our own podcast. We did promo swap to shows that we love. And this basically codifies that so that you can, this feature will allow a podcaster to say, here are the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 shows that I adore that you as a listener of my podcast should go listen to. That is going to be the Podroll feature. And I'm very excited about that because I can tell people in the show, Go listen
It's
to
a
No Agenda.
recommendation.
Go
Right.
listen to Podcasting 2.0. Go listen
It's a-
to
Yeah, it's a recommendation engine of sorts. Right.
right. And they may be surprised some of the stuff that's in my playlist. So I can talk about it in the show, but why not expose and make it just easy so the listener doesn't have to go look that up and say, oh, I'm done with Todd's episode of the New Media Show. And here are the 6 or 7 podcasts that Todd and Rob recommend that I listen to next. Bada bing, bada boom. Dave and Adam, let's make her happen.
Do you have to be careful of the shows that you list on your preferred listening list?
No.
You think?
Why would you? If you listen
There-
to them and support them.
I agree. But are there topics out there, podcast topics that you wouldn't want somebody to know that you're a big fan of?
I'm a pretty open book. I don't think so.
Okay.
But I don't listen to political shows.
Well, it's not just political, it's other topics too, right?
Well, if I was worried about that, I would not put them in that list. That is for sure.
That was my point. Right.
So,
That's all.
if you're listening to some something that might be on the fringe,
Mhm. And there are shows like that in the
there's-
podcasting space.
sure, there's
right.
there's, and I wouldn't call it fringe, but there's lifestyle shows, there's fetish shows, there's all kinds of podcasts out there that make people go, he listens to that, So
Exactly.
you might want to be careful in what you put on your pod roll. I think most people are discerning enough to say, and that's another thing too. This is why privacy in podcasting is important. Do you, do you really want your coworkers to know everything you're involved in? Probably.
Well, yeah, I mean, I faced this topic when I was working on a very early platform I worked on called Melodio Mobilecast. So we had this tool that would synchronize your web playlist with your mobile phone, right? Your playlist of podcasts. And then it had this ability to share that playlist, right, with others, right? But, I don't think the developers I think they thought about it purely, right, from the standpoint of, well, if I've subscribed to these must be shows that, I feel passionate about and that I wouldn't feel bad about making visible to others, right? That I follow these particular shows. And I think what we found over time is that people wanted to be able to say, well, okay, I'm willing to share this show, and this show, but not that show.
So, by the way,
right.
Bill Conrad, yes, Todd and Mackenzie will be at NAB. Rob will be there as well. We have a booth in Central Hall. That was a question that was asked on the Facebook stream.
Yep.
And Rob, what day do you get in?
On the 17th.
Okay.
So I'll be at the podcast movement meetup too. That's going on I think it's on the 18th.
I haven't seen the invite to that.
And I think there's an event with
I'm going to
SoundStack.
I'm going to the SoundStack
on the
party.
17th. On the evening of the 17th.
Yeah, I'm going to that one. I didn't see the podcast movement meetup one.
Yeah, it's on the 18th. Yeah.
Yep, come look us up, Bill, in Central Hall. Just look for Blueberry on the show list. So yeah, this pod roll thing I think would be cool to be able to have the ability to recommend shows and to promote them. I think it would.
Yeah.
So that's one feature I'm hoping will get put into. It's been in discussion for a while, but it's one of those I was like, oh. And here's the thing, too. Some people may say, oh, that's stupid. Well, when's the last time you got a recommendation from your podcast host of what podcast to go listen to? From your podcaster that you're listening to, not podcast host.
So how would that work with the RSS tag, you think?
Oh, it'll be a new tag, and it'll have all the elements you would need that a podcast app will be able to pull out and display.
Okay. So it would be similar to the comment sharing. capability, probably.
No, because this would probably be something that is permanent. It would be something that would, unless you changed it, it would stay the same. They may have it so that it's episode specific. I would imagine maybe they would add it. Could be. It would probably be at the channel level and at the episode level when they implement it. But
could be shared across multiple listening apps. Is that the idea?
Well, the idea is, that the apps would take this information, then implement it as a feature on their app.
Right. That's kind of how the commenting thing works.
Yeah, the cross app comments is very complicated, and we're going to implement it here directly, but this is not an easy one yet.
Well, sometimes doing something innovative isn't easy.
Yeah, and it is. That's going to be the hard one. It's was one of the coolest ones, but it's very, 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 from a user standpoint, because there's a certain sequence of things they would have to do. Number one, you got to make a post before you start your show, or before you publish your show, and have a link to that. And then the apps have to be able to somehow integrate with that, and so that works sideways. Right. And everyone's going to be using different things. They're going to be using Twitter, they're going to be Facebook, and some of that stuff it will not work.
Yeah.
Because the app developers are going to be the ones that are going to have to do the heavy lift to figure out how to integrate with all these platforms. And with the API calls being expensive to Twitter now, they may not want to do that. And of course, Facebook limits the stuff you can pull out of Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So, and not every, only a few percentage points of podcasters understand Mastodon. Probably more now that Elon's pissed people off on Twitter, but I still get huge engagement on Twitter. This show gets good engagement on Twitter. It gets better engagement on Twitter than it does on Mastodon.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot more people on Twitter.
That's for. Oh, hey, we're already done. We're already long.
I know.
Whoa,
we are.
Where'd the time go?
We're overboard.
Yeah. Well, so Rob, where and when are we going to be doing our presentation at NAB?
Oh, well, it's going to be in the West Hall.
Oh,
that's where it's going to be. Sorry about that. In room W213 and W215. So I guess it's multiple rooms together.
Okay.
So if you happen to be going to the NAB show in Las Vegas, it starts next week.
So as you're coming from the North Hall to West, you come in, right. I think you come in on the second floor already.
Right.
So you
don't
go
over the overpass, right?
Yeah. And basically you don't, if you go downstairs, that brings you to the lobby level. So 213 and 215 will be on that second level that you come in on. So you won't have to go downstairs once you come across.
Yeah, unless you want to go on to the exhibition floor.
But
right. But it's Tuesday, April 18th, from 1:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. So is when
we're not going to be live. Are they going to record it for us?
Yeah, it's going to be recorded, just audio. It's not going to be on the video side. So,
right.
but we still haven't gotten our media from Podcast Movement yet, have we?
No, and it's my fault. I haven't emailed Dan. So.
Okay. All right. So that's all right.
All right. I am Todd at blueberry.com, at Geek News on Twitter.
And I'm on Twitter as well, at Rob Greenlee. And you can send me an email to rob.greenlee@gmail.com. And I have a website, robgreenlee.com as well.
And if you are on Mastodon, I am either Todd at blueberry.chat or Geek News at geeknews.chat. So one or the other on Mastodon. Hey, I want to thank everybody for the boost today. So we had some good interaction. Martin, Mike, all you folks that boosted today, we definitely appreciate the boost. And Martin, definitely send me your address via the snail mail email, and then we'll get it in. Get that. I will get it out.
Awesome.
But I think what are you gonna say, Rob?
I was just going to mention that the guest that we're going to have on the show is JD Crowley, who's the Chief Digital Officer and President of Podcasting and Streaming for Odyssey.
Oh,
Is going to be with us on stage, as well as Rob Walsh of Lipson. So, and Todd and I. So it'll be getting the old 3 crew back together again.
yeah, the 3
Todd
old
and the 2
curmudgeons, right?
Robs, right? Exactly. And then JD Crowley, who's trying to live in this world between radio and podcasting. So it should be an interesting conversation on that.
So are you going to have talking points for us, Rob, like usual?
Oh, of course. Sure.
Okay, awesome. The only time we ever actually have an agenda for the show.
Yeah. Right. Right. And so the topic of it is going to be talking about how we can continue to grow the podcasting space for the broadcasting side of things. That's kind of the focus of it. So I'm sure it'll be a interesting conversation between radio and podcasting.
Well,
So,
it's
as usual.
It's a simple one. That is their only alternative to extinction.
Yeah. Well, he's going to be JD's going to be a good one. I did a call with him, and he shared with me lots of ideas and things that he's wrestling with. So
No,
definitely
be good.
praise
Huh?
those.
Be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks for all the Facebook comments and stuff on YouTube today as well. Definitely appreciate you been watching on Twitter or Twitch. We'll follow up there. But we will not be back with you next week at the same time, but we will the following week. And hopefully we'll have an audio file pretty quickly from NAB to be able to put up online and substitute for the missed live show.
Right.
So, everybody, thanks for being here. It's been my pleasure. And Rob, any last thought?
No, I'm just excited about the podcasting space. I think we're coming into a time when we may see continued consolidation, but I don't know how many times we've said this in the past, Todd, that was going to be happening, and it kind of did a little bit, but maybe not. But it could also not happen to some degree, just because there's not a lot of capital access.
They're still looking.
Oh, I know. There's still,
Yep.
It's for very specific type of opportunities, though.
Yep.
Is what I'm hearing. So
Yeah, their people are shopping for
deals.
not necessarily deals, cash positive companies that are making money, so if you're losing money, you're not going to get bought. I'll just tell you that.
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
I guess that kind of makes sense.
But you got to be above a certain digit too, and it's not necessarily a small one. So.
Yeah.
Or digits, multiples of digits. So.
Right.
All right, everyone.
Right.
Thanks. We'll see you next time here. Everyone take care. Next time.
Okay. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.